pull something that's showy out.
All right, so let us know when we're live.
I think we're.
All right. Boom. There it is. We're live. We're in.
We in?
We're in.
All right. So what's up?
Man, what's going on, dude? I haven't seen you. I mean, this has been this holiday season, again, goes back, we tied back before.
Yeah.
It's busy. It's busy right now.
It is, man. It is.
I mean, there's so many different directions that we can go in to start off, but I have something that's on my mind.
All right, what's on your mind?
I got something that's on my mind.
That's what I really want to know.
And it's in my pocket as well. Sports betting became legal in the state of Maryland online, 2 weeks ago, I think it was. Yeah. This was right before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, the election day. Yeah.
And since then, I've been almost...
No, actually, it was already voted on. It just became legal. My fault. Sorry.
Yeah, that they could do sports betting.
That was marijuana that got voted in legally.
Okay, yeah. Whoa.
Well, I'm just saying, I got those confused. But
did that get voted in?
Real. Yeah.
Did that get voted in?
Yeah, but go back to sports betting.
I just want to know clarification.
It did.
Marijuana is now legal?
Recreational, yeah.
It is? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry.
Hey.
But good.
Listen. So, yes, it became legal last year.
Yeah.
To do that, but online they had to launch online platforms for it, so it became legal at that point. What I would say is, and me and Maurice were just having this conversation before you came in, the parlay bets and all that. I mean, it's just, dude, you take a bath. I mean, you take a bath.
I'm gonna make a statement right here.
You take a bath.
I'm gonna make a statement, man. Right here. Right here, I'll make a statement before we even go even further into this.
Yes.
Online betting, online gambling will ruin more lives than inflation.
Dude, that's probably...
Over time. I guarantee it. And don't get me wrong, look, everybody likes to delve here or there, but that shit is going to damage lives. The access to gambling in your pocket at the click of a finger. Yeah. Bro.
Well, then you start.
Good luck.
You chase. A lot of times, if you lose, you chase. So if you're betting on a schedule of games, the first half of the day, and you've lost, now you're chasing in the second part. And then guess what? What's even worse is if you lose that portion, then you're putting everything down on Sunday night and Monday night games, and you're just making irrational decisions. Yeah. Like you're like, okay, Marcus Mariota, let's take this. He could maybe potentially have 300 yards passing. No, he's not. He's not, but you're gonna take it because with that you can win some money. You're like, I can come back if Mariota magically has a 300 yard game.
Dude, you could talk.
But it's almost like what I realized when I was doing same game parlays. It's almost like fantasy football, except it's not. Except you're betting money.
It is
on those. It's literally like, so you go.
It's single game fantasy football. Or single player fantasy football, which I actually had the idea for 20 years ago.
Yeah. Well, it is.
That's all it is.
That's exactly. So it's like, Jeff Wilson from the Dolphins, over 39 yards rushing. Well, you're like, if you had a fantasy team, you're thinking in yourself, at least he's going to get me 4 points, 5 points or something like that, right?
What it is? It's the whippets of sports gambling.
Oh, yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah, and
it's like instant gratification. It's over in 30 seconds, and it's probably
Let's talk about the worst bet, though, that you can make. The first touchdown, they do those odds, first touchdown of the game. Yeah. Oh, that's literally the worst that you could do.
The kicker.
Like, if you
take the quarterback, the quarterback has to run it in.
Yeah.
He can't throw it in. It's whoever crosses the goal line. Yeah, my cousin just got burned on this last week.
This is what, and it says at the bottom of it says the person who crosses the plane of the goal line is the touchdown scorer. Yeah. That's why I was like looking at some of the bets that you can make on there, and I'm like, I obviously understand why someone would bet them because like they're favorable. If you bet $5 and you can win $5,000, you would do it, right?
Yeah.
But in the instance, it's like, well, there's no way. I mean, I guess if you're just betting to compulsively bet, then that's the problem.
Yeah.
Like, there is a science to betting, sports betting, to hedge your bets, to do those. And me and Maurice were talking about round robin bets and how those work and hedging as many bets as you can.
Yeah.
But I mean, nothing on a parlay, nothing is for sure. A parlay is a sucker bet.
It is flat. A parlay is a sucker
There you go.
bet.
There you
Straight
go.
up.
There you go.
It's
just
like there's a
destroyed right
reason.
there.
There's a reason
Wow.
that Delaware allowed you to gamble on sports, right?
Yes.
In their lottery system with parlay cards. They don't let you do it single games. Parlay cards. It's a single.
true.
It takes good bets and ruins them. The only way to really make money gambling is, you ever seen the movie Rounders?
No.
You got to grind it out, man. You can't try to shortcut gambling. And even if you round it out, chances are the house is still going to fucking win.
I think statistically the house always wins.
Yeah.
However, in the case, unless you're betting, I mean, big portions of money. And future bets are good too. Future bets, if you bet, Bills win Super Bowl or whatever, future bets actually make sense. If you put down $50, you can win $5,000, right? So those are future bets. But week to week betting odds, the only real way to make money off of that, or to make to make those big numbers, you have to bet big numbers, or you have to hit on a parlay, which is like, I mean, I don't know. I'd love to know the odds of what hitting like a parlay.
Well, there's a tier. I mean, we could Google it and find out what like every if you add 2 games versus 3 games and you do 4 or 5. I mean, obviously it's like it's like roulette, right? Basically,
well, do you want to?
The more you bet, I can't remember.
When you look at the schedule, when you look at a schedule of games, now I'll tell you what's even harder: NBA betting. Oh, what?
Actually, NBA betting used to be what I would bet.
What? Listen, let me tell you something. There is no. I took Brooklyn last night money line. I was like, listen, hold on. You look at the players. You look at the players in the game. You're like, Brooklyn's playing the Celtics. Kevin Durant's been pretty decent this year. They lose. I thought it was a sure thing.
You took Brooklyn on the money line against the Celtics.
Yeah.
Why? The Celtics are like, they're probably best team in basketball right now. They are the best team in basketball.
Are they really?
Yeah. Once they added Brogdon, dude, it was pretty much a wrap.
I'm
not saying they're going to win it all, but they're a fucking hell of a team with Brogdon at it.
I guess I still am the allure.
Let's get into it real quick. Let's get into it real quick.
All right, let's go.
Because we could talk all day long.
Let's go.
And we are going to talk all day long about this. But before we do, allow me to say, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Prop Culture Podcast. I am your host, Matt Trader. And to my left, as always, Lord, he was born a gambling man and a rambling man, as I might add.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, I give you today
1,000%.
the myth, the legend, Mr. Shane Snoots. And today we're going to talk about sports betting and sports and all kinds of just fun shit. And when we get started, we don't know where the conversation is going to go, but it's going to go somewhere. Let's find out where it goes. Now, back to betting. You were talking about the NBA. Actually, I want to talk about betting on the NBA too.
Betting on the NBA. It's unlike football. Well, actually, yeah, unlike football. When you look at the roster of players, you can look on a NFL roster and go, this team is substantially better based on talent, right? NBA is not based on that. Listen, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, no brainer, right? No brainer. They're one of the top 5, top 10 basketball players.
Yeah, but the NBA is about it's about cohesion.
So that's what I'm saying. It's more of a team sport. It's not about star. That's what I'm saying. In the NFL, you could say Josh Allen is better than Mac Jones, and that's why they will beat the Patriots. Because you go, even if Buffalo doesn't have a defense, Josh Allen's going to put up points. Mac Jones is not good.
Yeah, but the Patriots or the NFL is more any given Sunday, and injuries play a huge role in the NFL. Not that it doesn't play a role in every sport, but I mean, if you look at week to week, if you look at the injuries and the inactives before every game, I always look at the offensive line. I don't even look at the skill players. I go and try to follow, if an offensive line's banged up, if a secondary's banged up, and it's very any given Sunday, and the ball can fall any way in football. That's a whole other conversation. Let's go back to basketball. Basketball, when I was gambling more in college, because I bet a lot in college. At one point in time, we had spreads for every single sporting event almost. On a whiteboard in our college dorm from.
Now, did you bet college basketball or NBA?
No, I was betting NBA, and I had a system down. And I really think the NBA, and this is one of the reasons for why they've changed their rest period between games, because this was my system. I would go find teams that were on road road tours basically on the opposite coast.
Yeah.
So if you were, East Coast team and you were traveling west,
Yeah.
and you were in your third game in 4 nights.
Yeah.
Okay, you're tired. Right.
Yeah.
And if you were not such a good team, you probably weren't playing that hard. If you're out, I don't know, in a big city, you're probably partying.
Yeah.
Right. I would always bet against those teams religiously.
That's probably a good.
It
bet.
was an amazing formula. I did extremely well with that formula. I did. It worked out well. I mean, it was amazing to watch. I mean, the teams would just fall off in the second half.
Really?
It was like NBA. It's like NBA Jam, right?
They were tired.
What's the strategy in NBA Jam? I probably shouldn't tell everybody this. The strategy in NBA Jam is to push your opponent the whole game, wear them down, build up their fatigue, right?
Yep.
They get tired in the fourth quarter. They got no energy, and you come in and you smoke them.
Yeah.
It's the same concept. They were fatigued mentally, physically. So I'd always bet against them. It was a not foolproof system. Nothing's foolproof when you're gambling, but it worked well. I did wind up losing my ass on a Houston Texans game. That pretty much, I haven't bet a whole lot since then.
Houston Texans.
I bet the Houston Texans back in, I don't know if it was 04, 05.
Dude, this is what
it
Derek.
No, it wasn't that. It wasn't that much money. I was a college kid.
David, wait, hold on.
It wasn't a lot of money, but
Dude,
I
is it
lost
Carr?
some money.
One of the Carr brothers, not Derek. David? Is it David Carr?
Yeah,
was the quarterback.
Yeah. I lost my ass on that game. I don't even remember.
R.I.P. to David Carr's career.
I don't remember which side I bet on or anything like that. I just remember losing that game, and I haven't gambled much since. And I tell you, man, honestly, I've seen gambling in my days ruin a lot of lives. Unfortunately, and I'm not going to go into all that on air. But it's one of the reasons that I'm not going to say I don't bet. I'm not going to say I haven't bet. But it's like drinking or anything else. You have to do it in moderation. You have to do it responsibly. Don't bet more than you can lose. Hell, play the stock market. You know what I mean? Don't invest more than you can afford to lose. Right. So, but either way, I always think the NBA appraises more truer to value than the NFL. I just think the NFL is there's betting racehorses, man. I mean, it is, dude. It's random shit, man.
Look at yesterday.
The NFL will take the smartest fans and make them look like idiots. Fredo.
Yeah.
Remember Fredo from? And I did a meme about this. Remember Fredo from Godfather?
Yeah.
And he sat there. Well, that's like NFL fans. Everybody wants to prove that they're so smart. I'm smart too.
Yeah.
I'm smart, Michael.
Yeah.
And then Vegas comes in and they're like, Nah, you're not. We're gonna squash that.
That's
ass.
where it's
We're taking you out to sea. You're swimming with the fishes.
Yeah. Well, that's
right?
where
Bye-bye.
if you look at yesterday's games, Miami lost. They were at
They're plus 4.5.
But if you look at yesterday's power rankings, if you just looked at power rankings, Miami was top 5. The Chiefs were number 1.
Yeah.
Both of them lost.
Yeah.
Cincinnati wasn't even. I think they might be top 10 in power rankings. But Joe Burrow's got that number, dude.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow. That guy.
They do. Were they 3-0 against them now?
Yeah, I mean, Joe Burrow, let me be very clear with you.
I actually took the Chiefs.
There is, I watched that full game. Dude, I mean, and again, I'm a Josh Allen fan. I don't know why Joe Burrow has been overlooked in any conversation of not being one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And maybe he has, but it always seems like it's Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen.
Yeah.
And, Josh Allen's had his slump, and he kind of goes through this regularly. But to me, Josh Allen reminds me more of and I mean, again, this probably is not the best to say right now because Brett Favre's legal trouble, but Brett Favre as an NFL player, where he's a gambling man. He's got the arm, he's got the size, he's got all that, and he's going to take the risk. Sometimes you got to live with that. It's either good or bad.
Burrow's a little more cerebral.
Burrow he's a surgeon. Yeah. Yesterday you could see he made the throws that you're supposed to make when you make them. He's not like, oh, he's down, Diggs is downfield, triple coverage. I got a stronger arm than this guy. Yeah. He doesn't have that. Yeah. And Burrow's not God gifted like that. So he's more of that Brady style. I'm going to pick you apart. Yeah. I'm going to make the right throw. But both of those games were amazing yesterday to watch. The Miami, San Fran, and then because they kept putting a little bubble up of that San Fran game on the direct TV Sunday ticket thing. So, but watching that game, both those games was kind of telling because I stayed away from them bet wise because it was like it's a toss up. It's a toss up. I don't think that I think Cincinnati could potentially beat them, but I'm sure people bet. Parlayed probably with the Chiefs and Miami because Miami's been hot, man. They've been hot.
Well, if you look at it, what happened to Miami yesterday? Miami goes back to what I was saying earlier in the year about Miami. Miami had 2 right tackles out.
Yeah.
All season, their tackles have been there. I think Jackson, has been hurt, but Armstead's been there.
Yeah.
And so they've been more secure up front, which is why Tua, I think, has been having a better year. So I actually wanted to bet the Dolphins because when you look at the Niners, there's no offense to the Niners. That defense is playing great. Hell, they just beat a really good team with or without tackles. With a third string quarterback. Yeah. So I'm not going to take anything away from the Niners.
No,
but before that, when you really sat there and looked at it, the Niners didn't beat anybody. They haven't beat anybody. The only team they really played that was worth a damn was Kansas City. And Kansas City smoked their ass. But now they're healthy. That defense is strong. And I'm not going to talk shit because they just beat a good team with or without the tackles, regardless. They beat a good team. The only game I really loved this weekend from a betting perspective, and I actually took them. I have a betting pool, which I'll talk about a little while. So I actually took them in my pool. And if I was betting, this probably been the only game that I would have put money on. And there's only one reason, and that's Pittsburgh over Atlanta. Now I think Atlanta's a better football team.
Do you really?
With more, hold on a minute, with more motivation. They have more motivation to win too because they're locked in maybe a playoff berth, right? They have a chance to get a playoff.
Is that
berth.
how bad their
bad the division is, right? So I'm sitting there looking at it. They're at home. I think they're a better team or at least a scrappy team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they've played pretty tough this year at times.
Yeah.
But I was like, why is this basically a pick? And then I went and looked at it. You know why it was a pick? You know why I took Pittsburgh?
Why?
Because Pittsburgh or Atlanta is 2-14-1 against Pittsburgh.
Are you really?
2-14-1. I was like, I don't care if, the spawn of Jesus Christ and Tom Brady is quarterbacking for Atlanta today. Pittsburgh is going to win that game based on trends.
Well, that's what my question is. Where does the statistics, like all-time statistics, stop and go? Because if you look at Buffalo against New England.
Yeah.
Like when Brady was there under quarterback, I mean, I think it was something ridiculous. Like it was 35-3 Brady had against us. But now, as Josh Allen is quarterback for the Bills, I think we're 4-1 against them. As with Allen as the starter, which is crazy to think that like Allen as the starter. Now it's kind of roles reversed. But which one do you bet? Because you go statistically, this could be a toss-up game. But Allen has showed out against him, so it's like. Where does those stats end? Because again, like that, those are two. Listen, Kenny Pickett is not the answer at quarterback, and I don't care what anybody said. He does not look good, and Mariota is definitely not the answer for them.
Yeah.
But it was 2 basic teams. I picked Pittsburgh yesterday. They seem to me like because they have T.J. Watt.
Yeah,
they have a difference maker.
Yeah, that's true.
Like I'm gonna take a difference maker in the game. The Atlanta Falcons don't.
Yeah.
Now don't get me wrong.
They're a scrappy team.
Yeah, but you need a difference. But let's be fair. You need a difference maker at some position. No matter what. And I think that's what will hinder.
That's a good point.
Seattle. They're a scrappy team. They don't have a difference maker. On their team. When somebody moves the needle for you, that's that good.
No, man. I will say this, man.
Like, look at the Commanders. They're scrappy.
Well, hold on a minute.
The Giants are scrappy.
In fairness, man, Geno Smith is playing, he is playing good football period this year. DK Metcalf's a hell of a talent. Lockett's a great player. Kenneth Walker is a bad dude, but he's hurt right now. I'm not saying that they have, Randy Moss and Priest Holmes on their team.
DK Metcalf is good.
But he's got some good talent.
Is he top 5 as a wide receiver?
Who? DK Metcalf?
Yeah.
No, I'm going to put him in the top 5.
So he maybe top 10, maybe.
I have to look at it, but yeah.
Maybe top 10. So what I'm saying,
talent-wise, he's probably up there.
Well, no, I'm saying he's physically gifted, obviously. He runs a solid 40. He's a stud across the middle.
Let's name it. Who you got? I like Tyreek Hill.
Obviously, Diggs.
Yeah.
Cup.
Jefferson. You got Jefferson.
Yeah.
Chase.
Yeah.
Who else you got?
Well, you got Adams. Devontae Adams.
Devontae Adams is still producing this year. Who else you got? Dave,
5.
Who you got?
Dave, who else is there? Hopkins, yeah. I mean, Hopkins is different.
Yeah. Well, right now.
He's injured.
You can't,
So,
I don't know. We can go through it. It's Monday.
I mean, that's 6. That's 6 right there. That's ahead of DK Metcalf.
Yeah.
So, he's somewhere in maybe.
Put Debo over him talent-wise? I can't. He had the longevity.
I don't know, man. Debo's one of those guys that I never really got the hype around him.
Yeah.
Like, he's good. He's a good utility player. He really is. He can run the ball. He can catch the ball.
What about Amon St. Brown? Dude, I think Amon St. Brown's over him right now.
Hey, man, how about the Lions? The Lions are sneaky good.
Okay, so look.
The Lions are sneaky good, man.
So look, if you guys haven't been following the podcast, go back 5-6 episodes. It was before this preseason episode.
Yeah.
We've got a bunch of bets on this podcast. The first bet was that Tua would throw for more than 3,000 yards. That was me versus. I think I won that. I don't know yet.
I think he's.
Look that up. The second bet was Shane said that Devontae Adams would score more than 12 touchdowns, and I went against him on that. The third bet was we bet the producers Maurice and Dave on this show that the Lions would finish at or above 500 this year, I believe, right?
Yes.
Okay. So at is a very strong word. We're going to have to go back and probably litigate that if they finish at 500. But either way, actually, I don't think you can finish at 500 now. You can't.
No.
You can't. No. So, so we'll find that out. You can't finish 500 because they play 17 games now, not 16 anymore. That's right. So, okay. So these are all the ongoing bets that we have right now on the cast.
Hold on.
So the Lions are tough, man. I like Dan Campbell. They're a scrappy team.
All right, hold on. So the season stats, where he's at now?
Hold on, we're gonna find this out.
He's at 2,859 yards.
Come on, Tua, just hang in there one more game, baby.
And you better hope for it because, dude, yesterday he was getting pummeled,
I know.
dude.
Just stick around. He's one more game, please.
He was getting pummeled yesterday. Like, yesterday was not. That's what's. You know what's actually after that concussion hit. Every time I see Tua, I just feel bad when he gets hit because it looks so bad.
Yeah.
Like last week, he had a hit at the end of the game, and even the broadcaster was like, "Why do you have him out here? Like, you don't need him in the game." And he took a shot, and I was like, "Oh my gosh! Like, is he out again?" Like every time I see him get hit, I'm like, "Oh, this is not good. This isn't good at all." But no, I mean, listen, the Lions beating the doors. I mean, they beat the doors off of Jacksonville. 40 to what? Well, I think it was 40 to 14.
Good, man.
No, it was 40 to 7, I think. I mean, listen, Buffalo, now don't get me wrong, because Buffalo played them on Thanksgiving, and I was pissed off that we actually had a close game. Because Buffalo,
you knew it was going to be a close game.
Well, they are scrappers. And then I had to hear for that whole week that Buffalo didn't put away the Lions. They were, and I'm like, you can't really. People don't give the Lions enough credit for being a scrappy team.
You got to put it in perspective, okay? And put it in perspective. I'm not saying the Lions aren't good, but let's look at it, okay? Again, let's not just take everything on the surface as better team versus worse team and all that.
Yeah.
Okay. The Bills just played the Vikings in basically a 5-quarter. No. Yeah. 5-quarter game.
Yes.
Pretty much. It was an emotional game. They come off that
to a snow game.
Then to a snow game. They're traveling. Then they come around and have to play a short week after all that. So they were tired. In my opinion, and this is no offense, the fact that they beat the Lions that day, that was basically the Lions Super Bowl this year. I mean, potentially. Yeah. And the Lions were moving. I mean, they had a lot of momentum behind them.
They played well.
They were at home Thanksgiving Day playing probably arguably one of the best teams, if not the best team in football.
Yeah.
The fact that Buffalo won that game, that's what good teams do. They find out ways to win those type of games. And, I thought the Vikings were probably going to get beat by the Patriots for the same reason. But if you go back, what the Vikings basically do the week after the Buffalo game? They took a week off and got smashed by the Cowboys. They were like, no, we're going to go ahead and rest this week.
Well, but yesterday,
that was the case.
That was, I watched, that's who the Jets played yesterday.
Yeah.
Minnesota. Yeah. Because I watched the game. Because we were talking about this beforehand. I was like, who did the Jets play yesterday? Because the Jets, everyone again, This is how the media changes the perception of a team, right? The Jets coming into this year were nowhere close to being at the top of the AFC East. Yeah. All of a sudden, their defense is legit. Now, their defense is legit. Good. Their quarterback situation, the biggest question mark in the league. Yeah. Like, it's worse than Mariota. Like, Mike White is not the answer. And Zach Wilson, I'm sorry to say, they might as well go ahead and ship him to somewhere else because he's done there. But it's so crazy because somehow the media hyped them up to be where they were at. Like, I don't think if yesterday's bets served me right, I think they weren't favored. I think they might have been favored, actually. The Jets over Minnesota at home.
No, Minnesota was favored by 3.
Was it 3?
Yeah.
But that's only because, think about that. That's only because it's at home. They were at home. They gave them 3 points. So they thought that the Jets were on the same level or better, or at the same level as Minnesota. The only advantage was that Minnesota's at home.
Darrisaw was out for Minnesota this week.
But think about that. But yesterday, Minnesota beat the brakes off of them.
That was a great win for us yesterday.
Oh, they beat
that was a great win.
They ran the ball whenever they wanted to. They passed whenever they wanted
Jefferson up against who's the new guy?
Sauce Gardner.
Sauce Gardner, yes.
Yeah, I mean,
up against Gardner. I mean, dude, Jefferson. Dude, he said, "Look, I'm ready for the test."
He said, "I'm the best."
He schooled that young man.
He said, "I'm the best in the league." And listen, now here's the funny part is, Buffalo took Diggs from Minnesota. With that pick, Minnesota drafted Jefferson.
Yeah,
isn't that? And rarely do you ever say the picks like a trade like that works out for both parties, right? Rarely does something like that happen. I mean, now don't get me wrong. Diggs is older than Jefferson, so longevity-wise, Jefferson's going to be in the league probably a little longer. But at this point, I don't know who. They're both dogs, so I would take either of them.
A great move for both of them.
Yeah, I would take. Well. But there's rarely in sports do you see someone go, "We're trading this player for this." Like even if you remember Clinton Portis getting traded to the Redskins for Champ Bailey, and Champ Bailey was a premier corner at that point.
I remember like it was yesterday.
And then he goes to Denver, and he's all right, and then Clinton Portis, he's a stud there for at least 3 years.
Yeah, he had a couple of seasons he had a couple of decent seasons there.
I mean, he fell off. I mean, after he got Larry Johnson with 9,000 carries a season. They ran the door. That was with, hey man, blast from the past. Let's name some quarterbacks. Blast from the past. Patrick Ramsey. Remember him?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, how many concussions did they not diagnose him with?
Way deep. So. That's way deep on that one, dude.
Patrick Ramsey?
Wow.
I mean, dude, remember that was the era of Patrick Ramsey and Kyle Bowler.
Yeah.
At quarterbacks.
So let's kind of stay in the same lane here with gambling, but let's delve into something else. How much more controlled do you think the games are going to be now that gambling is becoming more and more prevalent? Because they're already controlled.
I think to an extent that it's going to be. There's going to be some level because the Donahue situation always is going to with the
Tim
NBA.
Donahue,
which is I think was the documentary on Netflix.
Yeah. So that was I'm pretty passionate about that subject because I was a big Chris Webber fan.
Yeah.
And I love the Sacramento Kings because I love Chris Webber. And of course I was glued to those Lakers Kings series. And I remember sitting in my buddy's room drinking way too much Jack Daniels at that time, watching those games. And I remember like literally screaming at the top of my lungs, like, this is the most rigged shit I've ever seen in sports. And we were all arguing about it because I had Kobe fans there and Shaq fans and Weber fans. So I'm like, I'm telling you, this is bullshit. And it was bullshit if you watched it. And then 5 to 6, 7 years later, it comes out that it basically was rigged, and then we found out that way more stuff was rigged. So I literally, and this is a pretty hot take. I love the NBA. I'm a huge NBA fan. I love all the heroes from the 80s and 90s greatly. All right. I argue that many of them are some of the greatest of all times. But I think every single thing in the NBA's history prior to 2007, when that incident came to light, when all that came to light, every single thing before that is in question.
Do you think
everything?
Do you think that
because I think it was going on? I think it was going on forever.
So you think that they propelled Jordan to those
Look, I'm not taking anything away from Jordan. At the end of the day, you still have to hit the shots. You still have to make the plays. But when you look at the things he was doing with giving referees signed sneakers before games, that's slick moves, right? I mean, when you look at the amount of calls he was getting, and again, I'm not just singling out Jordan. I'm not doing that at all.
But do you think it's a consumer based issue or a gambling issue?
Here's the thing about the NBA, and I'll go. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I briefly talked about this when Brandon Ross was on. Yeah, he's a big Bulls fan. When you look at the NBA's history and where it was in the early 80s, it didn't even have a major TV contract. You literally, if you wanted to watch finals games, you had to stay up and watch it on tape delay.
Yeah.
Tape delay. And these weren't like regular finals games. These were like big time games. These were like, the Lakers and the Celtics, and these were made. So 1988,
Sixers or
so
something.
1988, because Jordan came into the league 84.
Yeah.
Jordan was gaining massive momentum. He was popular as all get out.
Yeah.
Nike had just put their whole, basically, they put everything into Michael Jordan. Nike invested there. Basically, if Jordan didn't succeed, I'd almost wonder if Nike would have succeeded. So you've got Nike that pumped all this money into Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Now the NBA goes and signs a major TV deal in 1988 with NBC.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So that's all predicated on Michael Jordan. So now you got the NBA, the NBC, and Nike, three of the biggest, entities there are in pop culture, right? That are all relying basically on this man because of his popularity. You know what I mean? So when you look at it, what was going on in 88, 89, 90, all those years, the Bulls kept getting smashed by the Pistons.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying what the Pistons were playing was great basketball. It was great for the 80s.
mouth.
It was smash mouth. That's how we grew up playing even backyard basketball,
that
right?
was
It was physical. But when you go back and look, what happened? The NBA wound up making rule changes. It helped him out, So look, was games rigged for him? I'm not going to go that far, but was there definitely some influence? Probably. Did they definitely need him to win? I think we'd all be a little bit naive to think that what was on the line didn't influence the outcome of some of those games. But Jordan still had to make those shots, had to make those passes, had to make those plays.
But is there?
So you can't fix that.
Well, okay. So let me.
You know what I mean?
So let me. Let's do this like dissect it in a better way.
Yeah.
How much of it is coming from the NFL, right?
Yeah.
Or the brand or the league itself.
Yeah.
Shout out the brand. I just
Shout out
dropped
to the brand.
Yeah. I just
Digital
dropped
media.
the plug. How much was it due to that? Basically saying, okay, Tom Brady is the face of our league. We need to protect him at all costs. And how much is it someone like a referee going into business for themselves because they have to do something, they've got themselves into a hole because they might be a compulsive gambler or whatever the case is, they could win some money. So how much is it one or the other?
So that's the question. I don't think personally, I think it would be more the latter of somebody going to business for themselves, because I think the league,
because that's the human element.
The NBA doesn't really need, no offense to the NFL. The NFL really doesn't need a star to sell its product because people are so tribal about their teams. They sell you the team. They market the team. So to me, I don't know that they really need to say such and such needs to win for our viewership to be better or worse. Now, look, if the Cowboys are playing the Packers, is that going to draw more than like the Vikings versus the Bills when they're shitty? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, those teams they're more popular franchises.
But do you think that at the end of the game, let's say that it comes down, there's holding, there's pass interference on every play.
Yeah.
It's all determined on that person on the outside. So a lot of people, conspiracy theory, think, it's because they want the Chiefs to win because it's good for football to see the team Mahomes on top. Or is it someone going into business for themselves? You know what I mean? Because that's the question.
Yeah.
These are the questions that after watching the documentary, you can see how a referee can change the whole game.
Yeah.
But here's the other side of it. Is it the NFL who says, hey, I need you to be more lean? Because at the end of each game, right, in between weeks, they send footage to the referees. They can send footage to the referees saying, hey, by the way, this team checks here. They do this. They hold here. They do that. They have the right to do that. And they do make teams aware or officiating staffs of, hey, this corner has been known to hold on plays. I just want to give you a heads up to it.
So I don't personally think, and I could be wrong, I don't think the NFL I don't think they need to do that to sell their product. And if that was the case, then we'd probably see the Cowboys, in every Super Bowl because they're so popular, or the Steelers in every Super Bowl.
But you pay to see them lose, right?
But do I think that there could be some inside interest with the referees? Yeah, probably. I mean, if you look at the referees, I think the referees are they're part-time refs. I mean, the NBA refs, you had to be a fucking moron to do what Donaghy did, because the NBA refs, that's a hell of a job. Dude,
Yeah.
like I mean, that's a very
I'll be a
stable
referee
position.
right
But
now.
the referee in the NFL, I don't know right now. Somebody could check me on this. At one time, they were just like part-time refs.
They
And they
still
weren't even
are.
making that much money.
They still are.
You know, now, does Vegas have an interest in these games? Are these refs paying attention to the lines for somebody else's well-being? That's another question. But you go back to one thing, and I'll say this. Football is the easiest game to fix because you only have to be right. You don't have to make a bad call on a couple plays and kill some momentum here or there. The NBA and basketball, you got to repeatedly make bad calls. You got to keep calling the fouls, foul.
But it's more back and forth.
Yeah.
In football, if it's an incomplete, if you sail a ball, no one knows if you sailed the ball on purpose or if it got away from you.
Yeah.
If you drop the ball, oh, you had a bad angle, whatever. Oh, you missed a tackle.
Here's what's really crazy, because I think all of us watch these games every week, and everything, not every game, but there's always things that feel fishy. And I think we always look at the spread. We always look at maybe the special interest that's involved. There's always something that feels fishy. Every week you got the conspiracy theorists running wild on social media. How much more fishy shit is going to happen in the era of prop betting? Because before prop betting became so prevalent, there was really only one thing that you were maybe trying to fix if you were fixing it, and that was the line, right?
Yeah.
The spread. Now, I mean, are referees going to be sitting there going, I don't know any referees, but whoever, somebody in the booth, eyeing this guy, whoever it is somebody going to be sitting there saying, man, Josh Allen's got over 300 on a prop bet, and he's already got 200 yards in the first half. He's probably going to hit this, over.
Yeah.
What are we going to do? How are we going to prevent this from happening?
Yeah.
And then are you going to have players that are going to be involved? Maybe they don't make as much money, and they're a prop bet now.
Well,
Look at Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley just got smoked on betting,
but
right?
he wasn't betting on his team though.
Okay.
So
right.
I
don't know. I'm speculating here.
I think to an extent the competitive nature for those guys. I mean, listen, when you're the 1% remember they told you like when you were in high school, they were like 1% of these people will make it to a Division I school. The 1% that made it to a Division I school is another 1% that made it to the NFL.
Yeah.
Like those guys have a competitive spirit, and of course it's a business for them. So I don't think anyone, because I'm sure Calvin Ridley, if you went back, he wouldn't go that $700 like parlay that he paid for would cost him $3.5 million of his salary. You know what I mean? Like I don't think that they would do that. I think there's more of a, if there was, and I'm not accusing anyone of doing it, I'm saying if there was ever going to be somebody that would be fixing a game, it would be a referee. It would be a call at the end of the game.
Yeah.
I don't think prop bets would be more. It'd be more of those big time games of it's down to the wire, pass interference at the end of the at the end of the game. You go, why you haven't called it all game? Why did you do it? They scored on that play. Well, that's why. It's or they didn't score, or that's 4th and 10. You know what I mean? I think that's the calls that are fishy. And trust me, like you look at a lot of games, like last year, you couldn't have convinced me the Bills in that 13 seconds when they lost that game. Like you couldn't convince me at that time that the refs didn't give that game to Kansas City because they wanted them to make it to the Super Bowl. Like in my mind, I was like, if you go back that game, we got a lot of calls against us for defensive holding or defense because again, playing Kelsey is hard.
Yeah.
Playing a big physical tight end is hard work, and basically when they engage in body contact, you have to either step up or you fall down.
Yeah.
And that they have the benefit of the doubt, right, of running their route. I thought that game was fixed because I'm like, we would get called for holding on 3rd down. It's like you're giving Mahomes another opportunity, and they fail. Now this year, if you look at it, he hasn't gotten the benefit of those same calls.
Yeah.
So that's what I always wonder. I'm like, is it officiating crews that are favored to Mahomes or the Chiefs or the Cowboys or who, you know what I mean?
I don't think that. Is the NFL maybe aware of it? I'm sure they may be aware of it, but is it the NFL that's pulling the strings? Is it Vegas that's pulling the strings? How much is that linked? Or is it just, like you said, a rogue referee? I don't know. I don't think the NFL needs to do it. Why would they take down a whole product when they don't need to do it? I mean, everybody's just trying. I mean,
well, no, I think the parody of having
the NBA needed to do it because the NBA needed stars to
But
win.
Super
NBA
Bowls-
needs stars to carry the product.
But think about this:
It does.
Super Bowls.
Although that's starting to change. There's a lot of parity in the NBA. The basketball talent is crazy right
who
now.
was the Super Bowl last year? Was it
a
LA
lot more parity? I should say.
and LA versus who? Oh, the Bengals.
Yeah.
Right? Burrow, an upcoming star.
Yeah, I don't-
Matt Stafford, the old thing.
Yeah.
And SoFi Stadium, it was at home. Good way to like literally, if you really wanted to go conspiracy theory, you go.
Yeah.
SoFi Stadium just launched. They're playing a home game. They got Von Miller. They got OBJ.
Yeah.
They got Matt Stafford at quarterback. They got Jalen Ramsey. Then they have a star-studded cast.
Yeah.
To make it. They're not saying that their teams, but this year they're terrible.
Well, if you want to
Rams
go,
are terrible.
if you want to go conspiracy theory, you can really go deep.
Rams are terrible.
You can go deep into a lot of scenarios. I mean, go back to the Saints. What, they just come off Hurricane Katrina, all of a sudden they become good. Go back to the Red Sox.
The Patriots?
Okay, go back to the Red Sox and the Patriots dynasty. All right, people don't realize this, but they were really involved in that big dig project that was going on in Boston at the time.
Yeah.
That was a lot of money. Now, that was going on forever. But there was a lot of money that was being taken out, a lot of resources that were taken out of that system. And all of a sudden, the Red Sox, the Patriots, get good. So you could make that a conspiracy theory, too. We go
After 9/11, they won the Super Bowl, right?
After 9/11, they won the Super Bowl,
the Patriots
right?
won the Super Bowl,
the
yeah.
Yankees were in the World Series.
Yeah.
George Bush throws a strike, right? Maybe
Yeah.
some things are just the stars are aligned. Maybe that's true. And let's be fair, right?
I think we often tell ourselves there's something else,
Yeah.
like someone's controlling it to make ourselves feel better. Because I think we want to feel like it's controlled, but like you said, probably 9 times out of 10, the stars just perfectly aligned for that thing to happen.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not saying the tragic that happened on 9/11. I'm saying like George Bush throwing the first pitch out for the Yankees, who are actually good. The Patriots, who are now like it's basically an American team, right? The Patriots winning the Super Bowl, beating the greatest show on turf, which statistically would never happen. It was the underdog story. That it could have been don't get me wrong. It could be that there was other things caused it, but.
Yeah.
I would say 9 times out of 10, those things all just kind of coincided with what was going on.
Yeah.
Like it was, and I think that's listen, you could tell me if today you said there's no evidence of that Kansas City thing, I'd be like, that's probably right. Because in my head, I'm like, there's no way we lost that game with 13 seconds left because we should have been, this should have been over.
As humans, we're always searching for a deeper meaning and deeper reason to things.
Yes.
So why wouldn't we do it with sports? We do it with everything, but let's kind of play devil's advocate here. Let's be fair, right?
Yeah.
Perhaps the house always wins because the house is so damn good at creating the spreads. I mean, look, the people in Vegas who create these spreads are freaking geniuses. And the goal to creating a spread is not to get all the money on one side or another. It's to get equal betting on each side. That's what they really want. That's the goal. Kind of like our government.
Yeah.
Divide and conquer, baby. Right? Why do you think our elections are so tight?
Yeah.
Right? Because it's divide and conquer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If one side, got all the votes, or the other side got all the votes, or everybody voted the same, there would be no need for fundraising.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't want everybody to think. You want to basically get people at odds with each other, right?
Yeah.
Create the divide, and then you can fundraise against the other side, and have reasons to vote. But I'm not going to get into that.
But let's be honest, if we're being fair about that, I watched a documentary on sports betting.
Yeah.
This was like 2 years ago, maybe. It might have been on HBO Max. And what Vegas does to come up with odds, they run simulations. They have people that are like, I guess, contracted to do
like playing Madden and shit.
Computer simulations of putting all the statistics in, like everything that you can possibly factor into a game, like weather. I mean, where it's played, what time of the day, all that stuff, and they run the statistics over and over again, and that's how they get the lines.
I can see it.
That's how they get lines. It was crazy to see, but that's how they're. But now I don't know how they would get. I don't know how you would get the prop bets of like the odds of Derrick Henry going over 50 yards, or
you look
know
at
what I mean.
You would look at the matchups. I always say fantasy is an easier thing to predict and actually a more skillful thing than betting, because you can look at it all on a micro level, and you could look at a run defense. Say Tampa Bay's run defense is pretty amazing, right? That's a good example. They have a great run defense, right? So, maybe Derrick Henry is projected to be under 100 yards that game because he's going up against a good run defense. I mean that's one example. Maybe offensive line's banged up. That could come into play.
But that's
There's a lot of reasons.
They've probably, if we're being transparent, that's probably where they got the model from prop betting from. Is fantasy football.
100%.
They go look at the numbers, because you're right. I just remember that too. And I used NFL.com. They would always say, predict he's going to have, Derrick Henry's going to have 20 points this week with 100 yards rushing and a touchdown. Well, how did they predict that? They're saying statistically against the number whatever defense, this and that, he's going to do this. Yeah. So I'm sure that probably factors into it. I mean, again,
let me give you the greatest idea ever.
What?
I shouldn't give my ideas away, but whatever. Somebody steals it, I'll just come up with new ideas. And somebody probably will steal this if they hear this. You should do gambling on fantasy games. You should have an option to be able to bet on all the games in your fantasy league every year. I've been wanting to do this for 15 years.
Well, isn't that
so
what
and you base it off projections? Well, no, maybe you can do it. No. Bet. I can suppose you look at your field, right? Suppose you guys are all in a league, and say Maurice is playing Dave, right?
Yeah.
You can bet on which team's going to win that game. So you're betting on the fantasy game, not the reality game.
So you're betting your team versus someone else's team,
or you could bet on somebody else's.
But that's where the
projections are already there, so the odds are already baked in, and then maybe you throw an extra 2 points one way or another.
But DraftKings does that, but you're against the field. You get to draft the same player. You're saying not being able to draft the same players. You're saying a league of 16 or whatever.
I'm saying, say if you follow Fantasy Sports Radio, I forgot they've got a couple pretty big leagues that John Hanson and them guys are in every year, right? I forgot what their names are. Either way, you could go on there and see who's playing who. Maybe it's Matthew Berry versus John Hanson.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bet on
Berry's team
or John. Actually, no offense to Matthew Berry, but I would be going with the Guru, baby. The Guru, John Hanson. Look, I don't give a lot of credit to all the experts in fantasy. That's because I've always considered myself pretty damn good at fantasy. But I will tell y'all straight up, if you're going to follow anybody out there, the Guru John Hanson is the fucking man at fantasy football. Straight up. Pay attention to the Guru. I will endorse him all day long. He's the man.
Berry?
I didn't. No, nothing against Matthew Berry. I like Matthew Berry. I'm just saying that I have a great deal of respect for the Guru John Hanson. I do. I'm not trying to patronize the man, but Matthew Berry's he has done wonders for the fantasy football culture and has been a great ambassador for fantasy football. I will never, ever say anything about Matthew Berry, although I would like to battle against him in a league sometime. I think
that Matthew Berry, I remember him from early 2000s.
Yeah.
And he came on the scene when ESPN hired him. Now he's on NBC. Yeah. It's really strange to see how much incorporated fantasy and betting is. On Sunday night football in America or whatever, that show, they're talking about lines, and I'm like, dude, this is so insane. To think, and then Matthew Berry comes on to give you a fantasy update on who's the player. You're like, this is so wild to think about. Only 10 years ago, they wouldn't be talking. They had their own show for fantasy that was 30 minutes on. It was only on ESPN, I think. And then CBS came along. But that was it. It was the 30-minute show to tell you kind of lineup, and they probably didn't even think that was going to make it.
Yeah.
And now it's featured on all your major shows of lines and everything.
I would love to know if Fantasy Now gets better ratings than Countdown. That would be an amazing study to do. I would love to know if somebody out there in social mediaville. Somebody find that out for us.
I'm 1,000%.
Because I've been looking it up for years. I can't find it. I'm sure it's somewhere. But I will say this, in fairness to all the guys over the years, all the fantasy experts, all the personalities out there, the Brandon Funsons, the Brad Evanses, there's so many of them throughout the years that I personally and I'll be honest with you, have ragged on because everybody thinks they're some guru at fantasy football. I will say that I have a newfound respect for what those guys do now that I'm giving my own little picks every week. Because, the first couple weeks I was hitting, and the last couple weeks, I mean, if you follow some of my picks, I apologize. But I'm in deeper leagues. I'm in 14 to 16 man leagues. So the guys I'm telling you to pick up, they're bottom of the barrel. They are dart throws, some of them. But I have reason behind them. But I will say that I apologize to over the years for anybody I've ever ragged on in the fantasy football community, because it is hard to do what you guys do. It really is. And I appreciate you guys. I really do. I've been playing fantasy football in some form since about 94. And look, man, seriously, the times when we were playing, we didn't even have social media. If you didn't have dial-up internet, it was hard to get insider information.
Oh, yeah.
The guys who had the Fantastic sites and the Huddle sites on like dial-up internet, like they were getting information that nobody had, So look, man, a lot of these guys in that community have been around a long time, and shout out to all of them. And I apologize for me or for whoever else that maybe has some choice words for y'all, because it is very, very difficult to do what you guys do week in and week out. So go ahead. I'm sorry. I had to get that off my chest.
No, man. I don't even know how to follow that, because, it's one of those things where I think fantasy has grown so much. And I think when people were doing that back in the day, I don't think they ever thought it would take off like it has. Like now it's so crazy. But I think, insane. When we're talking about prop bets, the same thing that you're saying, you're giving advice on somebody that it's a dart throw.
Yeah.
It's a dart throw. McCaffrey first touchdown score.
Yeah.
Plus 1,800. You're like, that's $50 on this thing. Like, well, it's a dart throw at it. Like, what maybe it'll happen. Maybe it won't. You don't know.
Yeah.
It's fantasy has a lot. Sports betting has incorporated a lot of fantasy into it now. Fantasy football, that is, with
I
prop
think there
bets.
is a great deal of skill that goes into fantasy football. A great deal.
Oh, yeah. No, but like you said,
yes,
it's a dart throw.
When you're making picks, in 14, 16 team leagues, guys that are like third and fourth string players that might, that's tough to call.
You're not, listen, there's been many a times when I used to play fantasy where it's, your tight end's the worst tight end in the league, and you're like, okay, I don't want to play him, but you go on the waiver wire, it's a Monday night game, you're like, I'm going to throw a dart out for this guy and see what happens. And guess what? That guy catches the one touchdown that you needed. He got you the 7 points you needed to win the game, because the other guy wasn't going to do it. There's many a times that's happened, and I'm sure you can probably attest to that. That's the same thing, in essence, when you're picking a prop bet with somebody who's going to score a touchdown or how many yards they're going to have, because in your mind, it's already calculated now. But you go, when you're forming your lineup, you go, I know Derrick Henry's going to get me at least 75 yards this week, plus a touchdown, probably because they're going against this defense. And probably, quarterback, that's all the way down. Statistically, you probably can go down the list and go, I think wide receiver is probably a little harder to guess, because a little more factors, but running back, quarterback, I think that's a little easier. You're like, this is a throwing offense. They're going to throw the ball. He's going to he's about 250 plus. You know what I mean? What's the odds on 250 plus, 259 yards plus 259? So, I think that the sports, and it's only going to evolve from here. It's going to be easier and easier to bet. Listen, I can tell you right now, they ran so many promotions. Like the first week they were off the ground, they're like, if Lamar Jackson gets 1 yard, win $50.
Dude, I'm not going to lie.
It's literally, that's what I'm saying. Bet responsibly, because you don't want to bet more than you can lose. And it's devastating, because when you don't lose or when you don't win, man, you're chasing that W so hard, man.
I'm going to be very blunt, and I said it at the beginning of the show, and I'll say it again. I think that online gaming is going to ruin more lives than inflation.
Yeah.
But I will say this.
Could make a millionaire.
I'm going to be very honest with you. I have a lot of money in DraftKings stock. So bet away, motherfuckers. Bet away. I've got a lot of shares of DraftKings stock.
Yeah.
Come on. Get it together.
DraftKings, I've
Make
downloaded
those bets, baby.
I've downloaded both apps, FanDuel and DraftKings. I like DraftKings more.
Yeah,
to be honest with you.
I think
it's
DraftKings,
easier.
they have
it's a more fluent. I don't know, their interface is a little more fluent.
Yeah, I think navigation is important. I think DraftKings is a really I think they're a pretty recognizable name. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think
they're the official sponsor now, gambling sponsor of the NFL. Did you know that?
Yeah.
So that's that. I mean, that again. I downloaded both, and I actually downloaded.
That's one of the reasons I bought their stock.
Caesars sports betting.
Beating on that.
They
stock.
were terrible. So, like some of these people, that you could tell they just put their interface out because everything was launching in Maryland. They're like, shit, we got to get it out. But you could tell DraftKings and FanDuel, for the most part, they've worked on this because they know, and they've launched it other places. They're like, we got to be ready for this. We got to be ready. We got to be ready. We got to be ready. And DraftKings makes it easy for you to bet. Yeah, which is probably the problem. Yeah, that's a problem in itself because
Penn National's got that program too, and we love Dave Portnoy on the show. Yes. But I'm gonna ask a very easy question to ask. Do you think Dave Portnoy's relationship with Roger Goodell is gonna hurt that Penn National stock? And you know that I'm on Dave Portnoy's side of that dispute. Is I always roll with Portnoy. I mean, Portnoy.
Listen, let me tell you something. They did a tournament for NCAA, and they did like secondary commentary. Yeah. You know what I mean? Where it was just their personalities commentating over, and that was like some like they did stupid numbers on the stream, and it goes to show you how big that brand is. The NFL, will that ever? They do streams every weekend. They can't stream the game while they're talking. They just stream them. Do I foresee at some point in time Goodell's going to have to put that aside? Absolutely, because Barstool Sports, no matter how you even look at it, how you look at it is they are coming no matter what. And Pat McAfee is one of them. Listen, Pat McAfee went one-on-one with the NFL. Did you know that? So he pays to be able to. I
love McAfee too,
but
you do too.
Yes, he pays to have the library of the NFL so he can play clips on his podcast, right? Yeah. Of things or whatever, and mention the teams, all likenesses, everything. Well, I guess one day the NFL got a wild hair up their ass, and this was like 4 weeks ago maybe, and they were like, yeah, we're moving that. Like, you can't use our name, our likenesses, even though he has access to the footage. So you could play the footage, but can't call the Washington Commanders. He had to say the Washington football team and they were drawing. He made such a mockery out of them in 24 hours. They reversed the decision on that because and he was able to use it because he was calling it the Professional Football League, the PFL. And he was like, I can't call it the NFL. And like, I'm not kidding you. Listen, and that's what I'm trying to say is at the end of the day, given enough pressure with the younger fans that they're going after, they're like, you need personalities like Dave Portnoy. You need personalities like Pat McAfee to be all in on you, because if you go against them, they'll be like, well, we won't watch you.
Dude, they all recognize this shit too. I mean, look what Barstool has basically done to disrupt the entire sports media industry. I mean, ESPN is literally copying them with their Sports Center clips. They're literally copying Barstool Sports. Yeah. Because they know that that's what sells to the new generation, and really to our generation. I barely even watch Sports Center anymore.
Well, just think about this.
I'm telling you right now, man, they have ripped it up. And anybody out there who's just doing the same old traditional sports media bullshit, it might last for a little while. It ain't gonna last that long. No. You need that edge. You need that Barstool Sports. And shout out to them, man.
They have the engine now. They've created such an engine to where even them just being a person, they can create a personality out of thin air. And I mean, they've shown you that time and time again with all of the people. I mean, listen, Bussin' with the Boys, I mean, those are two guys that were just football players. Yeah. Now everyone knows Bussin' with the Boys. Yeah. Wallow and Gilly's another podcast where it's like, that's a great podcast. They have created so many brands out of that. So, I mean, shout out to him. Dave Portnoy has really put the team on his back, per se, because he goes out and he does these larger-than-life things.
He's investing in people. In regular people. He realizes that there's regular people that have just as great a personality or just as strong of stars as all the other so-called celebrities out there. And so shout out to Barstool Sports. Talking about podcast, we are the Prop Culture Podcast. Talking about brands, we are in the Brands studio right here at downtown Salisbury. And speaking of engines, well, we got an engine too, and we're going to have to shut off the engine today because we're getting close on time. But ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening. Don't know if we're right or wrong, but we'll see you next time right here only on Prop Culture, baby. Shout out.